Hello, everyone, and welcome into the hospitality room. Bobby Swofford, Blair Cartwright here in the land of crockpots and other assorted fun items. Mr. Swofford, how are you today on this 1 week away from college
Man,
football?
it's hard to believe that football and college football is back. I know there's a couple games this weekend. Poor Delaware State missed their flight to Hawaii. I don't know, they may not
Ooh,
even be able to play their game this weekend, but it's hard to believe it's already here. And of course, things are getting close and things are going haywire for me. My earpods won't connect. My microphone turns on and off. I don't even know if this thing works anymore. So I had to throw the headset in that has the extra mic just to be careful. It's a day. It's a day already, and it's only 11:15 as we record this.
oh my. How do you miss a flight to Hawaii?
I don't know. They said they had bus issues, but like
Oh, okay.
it's a Division 1 team. They're an FCS school. Like they
Yeah.
have to be the entire flight. Like I mean, you're talking
Yeah,
probably 100 people are on that plane, and they all missed it. Like
that's
that's
amazing.
I don't know how that. I was like, how's that plane not just like okay, we're gonna wait on you? I
Yeah,
don't get
or
that
you
one.
or you charter. So
Yeah.
nuts. All right, let's get to our headlines. And can you imagine football will be the lead? Yes, 1 week away. And I got this timely email today. 7 days to kick off.
$7 ticket.
$7 off tickets for the next 7 hours. So that tells me it's not a sellout.
Uh, Honest, I'm surprised they're not $7 tickets. I mean,
See,
when you've
yeah.
got a spread that's 52, I believe is what I saw it at 52 and a
Oh,
half.
but it's lowered. Because
Uh
I
oh.
was actually, yeah, because I downloaded the Saracen app and I was looking at
Mhm.
that and I was thinking, that's free money. It's now down to 49 and a half. That's a pretty big move. Three points in a
It
line
is.
like
If
overnight.
Yeah, if it gets below 45, hammer it. But this game screams 52-7, something like that. And I believe I was reading an article. It might have been from Hutch that the average score from an SE school versus a SWAC school over the
Mm-hmm.
last 10 years is like 55-7. So that's kind of that general range. As Arkansas adds Alabama A&M for the schedule next year, everybody get excited.
Yeah.
But yeah,
If you,
I mean, people are getting excited. Obviously down here in the central part of the state, people are starting to clamor about it. I've got a radio appearance next Thursday, and
oh,
it's at War
nice.
Memorial Stadium. We want to promote high school sports, obviously, but they're just going to go ahead and throw it all together in the same thing. And so I get to go jump in the tailgate scene right away, even though I really
Nice.
hadn't planned on it. So,
Sweet. The over
so if you
under is 57 and a half.
57 and a half and a spread of 49.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's AKA they've got a 55-3 spread on that game themselves.
Yeah, I wonder
40,
what
49 to
caused it to
7.
move. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wonder
I
what
don't know.
caused it to move. And I know as soon as if I do bet on it, which is legal now
Mm-hmm.
in Arkansas,
That's right.
that it'll go the other way. The reality of it, and I'll be
I don't
outnumbered.
know. Like I was thinking about this to myself, and yes, we're excited about Razorback football. We're excited about football in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that UAPB would rank in the top 6 in the state of colleges.
Yeah, I
They're certainly not in the top 3.
no, no, and I mean, who's number one, Harding or Arkansas?
No, I mean you go Arkansas. I mean, just based on the number of players and the level you're at, you go Arkansas. Arkansas State UCA is going to be determined next week, so we can kind of
Mm-hmm.
like flip that coin. But Harding's number 4 with no question, and it's not even close. Like I'm pretty sure Harding might beat UAPB by 25 points.
Oh, it'd be a better game if they played Arkansas instead of UAPB.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be much more
Yeah,
interesting.
but Washita and Henderson have been really really good football programs recently too, and like it wouldn't shock me. And you think before you say like, oh my god, a Division 2 is never going to be an FCS school. I remember what in 2002 we played UAPB. I think it was 2002 or 2003. We signed
Mm-hmm.
like a 6-year contract with them to play at War Memorial Stadium every year. And the
Yeah.
first time we played them, we beat them like 49-7. This is when Zach Clark was quarterback and
Mm-hmm.
UCA. We had it rolling pretty good. They canceled the contract after the first game.
Oh, I'd believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the Division 2 schools in their state very very easily could beat UAPB. They might even beat UCA if they catch them on a down day. Harding can beat anybody. Harding might be able to beat the Hawks if they catch them on a down day.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, that style of football is just so tough to prepare for. But we're getting way off topic here. I know.
Yes. And I, I'm having flashbacks of the Citadel game dance through my head. Yeah, ugh. But that was one, and being 1 week away, and you're reading the coverage, you're seeing the coverage. When you're working in the media, this is like, especially with the game against an opponent that's just, the big spread. This is the worst time because
hmm
there's really nothing new to ask. Everyone's talked out. I know
Yep.
Pittman's done the banquet circuit and stuff, but it's like it's the worst time because the time just moves so slow. I mean, what are you really asking a coach at this point?
Yeah, I mean the only thing that you're asking at this point are any potential, like, are guys injured? Are you fully healthy? Who is the depth chart? And I'm not talking just the top 22. 11 offense, 11 defense. Who's that third guard? Because that's who's going to play in this game. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas is going to roll out, maybe play 100 players in this contest. I can't remember off the top of my head what the roster restrictions are for non-campus games. Like, if you're off
Mm-hmm.
campus, I know that you can't dress 160. But Arkansas is going to play as many as they want to. Like, those are the questions that you probably want to ask. And are there any suspensions that are going to be hit? Because this is usually that time, like, oh, by the way, so and so is not going to be available for violation of team rules, etc.
Yeah, but then again, on the other hand, you're not going to get a legitimate answer to any question
No,
you ask at this point
that's
anyway.
right.
So it's just
That's right.
this little dance that we do for a week. Uh, I don't know. It's just like the worst.
hmm
But you got to go to practice. You got to go to the press conference because God forbid somebody say something and you don't have it, you're
Yeah.
going to get called out on the carpet. So.
Well, anymore, and I've been noticing, like, every random Joe Blow has access to the press conferences now.
Hmm.
I guess they've put them all on Zoom now. I guess you can go in
Yeah.
person, but I mean, you're starting to see the TV stations and the Twitter reporters that you see more and more of every day. They're just airing clips from press conferences that you can easily tell that they ripped off of Twitter, or not off
Yeah.
off of Zoom.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like the media has evolved. I mean, it used to be. I mean, it felt like we spent our entire day on campus.
hmm
Now, maybe the only time you're actually on campus is, I don't even know if they had media day anymore. I
They
mean, they
didn't.
used to.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
talking with Bertaccini on his show up in Northwest Arkansas. They did not have media day. They had
really.
they gave access to Pittman and a couple players, but they did not have the full blown. Everybody gets to go stand out on the practice field and you talk to anybody you want to. They did not have that this year.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wild. Because that was
hmm
always. I mean, that was always a full day. You got everybody for like what 5 minutes, and you
Yeah.
had to turn in your list, and then of course half the time you never got them, so you'd grab whoever. But
hmm
yeah, because you had a special you had to produce because the sales department sold 400 ads, so you
Yeah.
had to fill this hour time. So that's wild. I guess
Yeah.
that's
I can't.
just where we
Yeah.
come now.
What was it? Was it Pittman's first year? What was Pittman's first year? 19.
Something
Is
like
that
that.
right? So
Yeah.
it was his first year. Maybe it was Chad Morris's last year before he got fired. But anyway, media day literally consisted of every player was out on the practice field in a chair, spaced
Hmm.
out 5 or 6 yards apart, and you had full access to anybody as long as you obviously didn't go crazy. And so, like,
Yeah.
that was actually fun because you could do different things with them. You could have them interview each other. You could do these random things. Anymore it's just it's so tight
Controlled.
lipped and buttoned down. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's not fun, and we'll say that.
No, it used to be fun. You could actually talk to people and get answers and have it was kind of like
hmm
the Super Bowl media day before it got totally crazy. I
Yeah.
think my first day on the job was the 91 media day. And of
Okay.
course that turned out to be a not such a or
Yeah.
maybe it was 92, not such a good year, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing how things have changed. It was like they would beg people to come. Now, go away, go back, stay on your computer and zoom in.
hmm
It's wild how it's evolved. So we're excited. We'll talk more about the thrilling game between UAPB and Arkansas next week. Future opponent Oklahoma State came out with the new wrinkle. Mike Gundy's going to have them put QR codes on the back of the helmets, thinking you're going to scan it during a ball game and then contribute to the IL fund. Have we lost our minds now?
Yeah, like so. Do they think that the TV cameras are going to zoom in on them so many
Yeah.
times that you're going to have time to grab
Hold
your
still.
phone and yeah? I mean, it's just put it on Twitter, put it on social media. Like just put that QR code out there anywhere other than the helmet. That is going to get them literally zero scams. Like if I'm sitting in the front row behind the Oklahoma State bench, like my thought is not going to be, oh, I paid a bunch of money for these tickets. Let me scan and pay you some more. I'm not
Yeah.
doing that.
Well, I mean, it's smart in the aspect it got everybody's to talk about it. But on the other hand, digital ticking still stymies every fan base in America. I mean,
Yeah.
some have caught on to it, and now you're going to ask them to do a QR code.
Mm-hmm.
It's nobody knows what to do anymore. It's funny, but maybe they should put a QR code on Gundy.
Maybe.
That could be fun. He should like
Yeah.
shave his mullet for
For a
money.
QR code. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Get it
good.
tattooed on the back of his head.
There we go. It is opening weekend of football, as we heard. Delaware State has missed their flight to Hawaii, which is insane. I mean, why are they even? I mean, Hawaii couldn't find somebody closer than Delaware State to play opening weekend. But,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, apparently Georgia Tech and Florida State did make their flight. They're playing in Ireland for some reason,
Yeah.
which is odd. Why would you want? I mean, I could get it if you're the road team, but why would you give away a home date? But that's the only game of consequence this weekend, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a bummer, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, at least you get to see Florida State coming off their pretty impressive year last year. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the whole schedule this weekend. I mean, there's only 4 games in the first place. SMU, Nevada. I mean, that might have a little
Mm,
intrigue for some people in Arkansas. Obviously, Lashley being the coach down there, but it's it's for a week zero. It does feel very very dull. To be quite
zero
honest.
apt. Zero is
Yeah.
very apt for this week. So yeah. Do you have? I mean, we'll make picks next week, but
Hmm.
does Georgia Tech have a chance? They're only
Yeah.
like
I
a
mean,
10-point underdog.
yeah, 10.5, and the over under is like 55. I think they do have a chance. I mean, because one, it's conference games, you never know. And two, Florida State's breaking in a lot of new faces. I mean, and also a
And
quarterback.
DJ.
Now, granted, Florida State's a much, much better team. Well, they got Ungalale, I believe, is the quarterback now at Florida State. So they've got an
Yep.
experienced guy. And Norvell should have that team, ready to roll through the ACC for all intents and purposes. But season opener, you just really never know. And then you add the fact that you're flying, across the ocean, and you got to play in a different environment. I'll give them a 10 to 15% chance, but Florida State should roll.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, can't name one player on Georgia Tech other than the offensive lineman who's getting the NIL deal. But I don't even know if
Yeah,
he's on the roster this year. He may be
yeah.
later on.
And they don't run that triple option attack anymore. So like Georgia Tech doesn't have an identity that's nationally recognized. So
Hmm.
and it's kind of an odd dynamic.
Yes. Speaking of odd dynamics, the SEC has come out and said, "Hey, we've figured out our tiebreaker. Check this out. La la la, head to head, record. And then F, random draw of the tied teams.
Yeah.
So it could come down to pieces of paper being drawn out of a hat.
Hmm. Yeah, it's it's 22 pages, the whole document. That's all that. It was like, I mean, I get you have to have something in place because you don't
Yeah.
have divisions. And so, I mean, so we could get, I mean, theoretically, we could get a Georgia Tennessee SEC championship game or an
Mm-hmm.
Alabama LSU championship game, which
Yeah.
is crazy to think about. I don't know. I mean, doesn't make sense to me. Like, why not have divisions? If you're going to have a championship game, you've got to narrow it down somehow. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I think this may be like the first step of, because we've talked about how they're going to be realigned in 2 years. When they
Mm-hmm.
fully go to a full schedule. This may be like a litmus test of like, okay, does this work when we go to the pod system? When we've got 4 division winners, A, B, C, and D, we got 4 different groups. So maybe this is how we could determine who our conference and championship game will be. But I don't know. I don't understand what the SEC is trying to do without divisions, to be quite honest.
It won't happen, but that just flashed in my head. Okay, you have your 4 pods. and then you have a mini tournament because
That's what I thought they would do.
think of the revenue that thing. But then
Mhm.
again, then you're having that on two more games on top of the 12-team
No,
playoff,
so here's what you could do. I mean, and
or you
I
bake it
went
into
full
the
blown in
playoff.
this. No, well, what you do is you extend your regular season, and I don't know how you would do this based on ticket sales, etc. But you make an 11. Everybody in your conference plays 11 games, so
Like the
that's
COVID
all you
year.
get. Yeah, so you get 11 games, and the winners of those pods play each other for the 12th game, and then the second place teams could play each other, the third place teams could play each other, and then you kind of pick, okay, the ones who haven't already played each other, with the exception of the ones. And so then maybe you could play it out that way, and then you still only have one conference champion, one championship game, and then also everybody gets a full 12 games. I don't know how you could do that with home and away, though, the designations there.
Mm. Yeah, that'd
And
be
because
interesting.
trying to schedule a home game on literally 6 days' notice would be pretty tough, even at that level.
But it can be done because BYU
Yeah.
and Coastal Carolina showed us during COVID
Mm-hmm.
you could do it if you're willing to. The
Yeah.
championship game's not going away because that makes too much money for the conference. But
Right.
I like that idea too because then you're not having to. You get to keep a little money because you're not paying out for the non. You don't have to pay
Mm-hmm.
UAPB $1 million to get beat or
Correct.
whoever. So you'd save money on the non-conference games,
Mm-hmm.
and you could tell ESPN we want more money,
Yeah.
which
Uh, in theory, it kind of seems like it works, and like you kind of tier it out. Okay, if you finish fourth in the, we'll call it the West, in the West pod, you're going to play the fourth in the South pod, unless you've already played each other, and then
mhm.
you kind of rotate it because you're not, obviously odds are you're not going to have played every team that you finish tied with in those divisions on a regular basis.
Yeah. Or it gets baked into what essentially becomes the Big Ten and the SEC being
Mm-hmm.
the top
By
end of
themselves.
by themselves and their playoff, and then boom, you're automatic qualifiers. So
Yeah.
eh, we'll see how all that plays out. Speaking of football, Out of the Darkness came out this week, the
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers book. I've been listening to it on Audible. Very interesting. Do you have any desire to read this or listen to this?
No, because I think some of Aaron Rodgers' oddness is for attention.
Yeah, I could see that. I
Um,
could see that.
so back in my Fort Smith days, it was when he was obviously still with the Packers and in his heyday, and he was really good friends with Brett Good, the deep snapper, played for
Okay.
Fort Smith Northside and then in Arkansas, and then for the Packers. And Aaron Rodgers came to Fort Smith several times. Nobody knew about it, and he would play guitar like they did the little band together at Brannan's, which is just at the bottom of the hill at Vienna.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and so like he made some appearances. I was never there when it happened, so I don't have a like in depth story about any of this. But like a lot of the things he does is kind of for attention, though. Like, okay, it's cool that one of your best friends is the deep snapper and you're hanging out with him in Fort Smith, but like, why do you feel the need to go play in a band? Let it be known that you're in town.
Because he has
He's
nothing
just
else to do.
he's kind of
He's a
yeah, he's kind of a weird dude. He's also
yeah.
very very overrated, which is why I probably wouldn't read the book. And now he plays for the Jets, which means I really don't like him.
Yeah.
But because everybody wants to talk about his greatness and how awesome he's been, his playoff record is substandard.
Yeah. It's he's an interesting cat. He's almost too smart for his own good. It comes across. I've gotten
Mm-hmm.
to the part now where Olivia Munn's entered the picture and he's distanced himself from his parents. It's funny though, the 49ers had the opportunity to take him. That was his childhood team. And yet
Mm-hmm.
who's the team who's vexed him the most in the playoffs?
Yeah.
The 49ers, which is odd. He didn't like Favre. Favre treated him like trash. And then he did the same thing to Jordan Love. Favre left, goes to the Jets. Rodgers leaves, goes to the Jets. It's just weird how
Mm-hmm.
it all kind of ties
Yeah.
together. It's very interesting, but the amount of interviews and everything,
Yeah.
it's different. It's one of the better, you know, unauthorized biographies, but yet he sat down with the author and talked to him about it and said, this is true, this,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was odd because usually when it's not authorized, that means you didn't have any access to the subject.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is intriguing. Ian O'Connor did a couple stories on the Patriots,
Mm-hmm.
So he's been able to kind of get some access through
Yeah.
the years. The one excerpt that I have seen that got a little attention is how Tampa Bay and Gruden told him, like, "Hey, we're going to take you at number 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
If like we're taking you at 5, and then all of a sudden he's there in the 20s." I mean,
Yeah.
that to me, a lot of people forget, especially the storied career, and he has had a great career. I was kind of nitpicking his playoff career,
Yeah.
but you kind of forget about, he was dramatic, and they changed how they cover the draft because of just watching him get more and more depressed with the longer he stayed on the board.
Yeah. And Gil Brandt was the one whose decision it was to bring him to New York. And then they
Mm-hmm.
found out the night before the draft that Tampa Bay was out and all this other stuff. And they had brought in Jerry Rice to work out with Rodgers. Gruden did because Rice was considering to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So you had Aaron Rodgers and neither one ended up playing for Tampa Bay, but it was just, and also part of the group in San Francisco that decided not to go with Rodgers but to go with Alex Smith was one Mike McCarthy, who would become his head coach in Green Bay. And McCarthy was one of the people
Wow.
who wanted him to draft Alex Smith. So it's
Hmm.
just interesting how all this
Yeah, I may
is
have to
kind
check
of
it
tied
out.
together. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And speaking of that, let's talk NFL. Bo Nix has been anointed the starter
Mm-hmm.
after being third on the initial depth chart
Yeah,
by Sean Payton, which just goes to show you depth charts are fodder for
meaningless.
the media.
Yeah.
But and now everyone's raving about Nix.
Yeah.
I guess he's the early favorite to be rookie of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to lean that direction. I mean, Caleb Williams is obviously going to be in the mix, and the Bears have looked pretty good in the preseason and the few snaps that he's played. Jaden Daniels looked pretty good in his drive. I mean, you're going to immediately go to those top 4 quarterbacks and think, okay, they've got a chance. And I think Drake May is probably going to start sooner rather than later, especially the way that Jacoby Brissett has played in the preseason for the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't shock me to see him take over the starting role, maybe even by week 2. To be quite honest. So it's going to be one of those 4 quarterbacks, one of the ones who were taking the top 15.
And speaking of quarterbacks, there's been a lot of talk this week about how quarterbacks would probably benefit the rookie quarterbacks for
Mm-hmm.
sitting a year. You know, like a
Yeah.
Rodgers, like a Mahomes, whatever. And instead of throwing them out there like they did with David Carr and the Texans, where you just
Mm-hmm.
get pulverized and then boom, you're on a milk carton and nobody remembers you in a week. Do you think the Patriots need to kind of take it slow with May? And I mean, the Falcons have already said Penix is not going to play any more preseason games, which is weird
Yeah. That
because
is odd
they've got Kirk
because they have
Cousins.
a quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you want to get them experience, but you don't want to overwhelm them.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it, to be quite honest, because obviously, if you put yourself in the Patriots situation and you trade Matt Judon, and your number 1 defensive pass rusher you trade, your number 2 defensive pass rusher and Christian Barmore is out for maybe the season because he had blood clots early in training camp. You just gave him a huge contract, but your defense is still pretty good. Last year they didn't have Judon for 13 games. They didn't have Christian Gonzalez for 13 games. Marcus Jones missed at least 10 games. So 3 of your impact players on defense, and they had the statistically the number 1 ranked defense in the last 10 games of the season.
Hmm.
And so you've got all that talent coming back. Judon didn't play in those games, so you still got all that talent coming back, and you think, okay, if our offense has a pulse, maybe we have a chance to win some games.
Yeah,
The offensive line's still a disaster, and maybe that's why you're leaning Brissett, because maybe he can handle the pressure, doesn't make as many mistakes as a rookie might. But the way they played in the preseason, I'm thinking they're playing Sunday night, so they're going to get the national spotlight coming up this week. They're on NBC against the Commanders, I believe, and I don't know if Daniels is going to play or not. But so that game, if May comes out and plays well against, even if it's the Commanders' backups, would not be shocked to say, okay, we're not going to start you week 1 at Cincinnati because you got to go up against Joe Burrow. But week 2, come home with Seattle. Maybe that's a game you roll out the Drake May era.
interesting. And then in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
who knows who the quarterback's going to be? Russell
Mm-hmm.
Wilson, what a shock, not looking good. Justin
Right.
Fields has moments, but then there's a reason the Bears moved off of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the Steelers are a defensive team by nature.
Right.
That's going to be a dumpster fire all year. Will that end up costing Mike Tomlin his job?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to cost him his job, but I certainly think their streak of seasons over 500 it may come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that division with Baltimore and Cincinnati and Cleveland, even though I'm not high on Deshaun Watson or that team, they're not going to be able to beat teams 17-15 like they did last year.
Yeah.
They're going to have to go out and score 21, 28 points to win some games, and they're not going to be able to do that on a consistent enough basis. I think they're probably a 6 or a 7-win team, assuming the quarterbacks stay on their trends. Now, if Justin Fields turns it on like he did in the second half of the year for the Bears last year, then maybe they got a chance to fight for a playoff spot.
You almost wonder if, I mean, you've got two quarterbacks, veterans who nobody wants. You got an OC that nobody really wanted. It's just, I don't know. It's I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh, but
yeah. I tell you what, though, if the Steelers do decide to move on from Tomlin, there's going to be about 15 teams chasing him and trying to convince him to come coach their team. And it doesn't matter if their coach has been successful. Like the Cowboys could make the Super Bowl this year, and if Tomlin comes available, Jerry Jones would be a fool not to go after Mike Tomlin.
I bet he goes after Belichick. I mean,
more likely.
McCarthy's on the hot seat.
There's two spots I think Belichick could end up next year, and they're both in the NFC East. It's either the Cowboys or the Eagles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about Sirianni. He's, it's going to be interesting. All right. We move from NFL. Let's talk movies. Have you seen a movie this summer? What has captured you at the cinema?
So it's not because I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go see this movie, but the wife had a work event at a Deadpool and Wolverine showing.
And how was it?
It was entertaining. I mean, it's a little over the top.
I heard the language was really salty.
Well, yeah, it is, and because it's rated R, and it's what it's supposed to be. I mean, Deadpool is the one Marvel character that is just out there, and it's entertaining. I mean, it's not like for your kids to go like, oh, this is not Thor or Captain America. Don't get misquoted there. But it was entertaining. I mean, it was worth the 2 hours.
Okay.
I really like Hugh Jackman, so I'll say.
Yeah, he is good. I did see Top Gun Maverick. We watched it here. I think that was probably better than and then we tried to watch the original because my daughter had not seen it. Boy, that does not age well.
I think it's better than the original. I do.
Oh, I think so too. It's like it's almost like a better version of Iron Eagle. Do you remember that one? With Lou Gossett Jr. It was kind of a similar.
I saw that one.
Okay, I wouldn't put it on the bucket list, but it had the. That was where One Vision by Queen came in. But I thought Top Gun Maverick was pretty well done. Was pretty good.
Okay.
So, and it's hard to find a good flick anymore. Nobody can agree on anything, but a Tom Cruise movie.
Mm-hmm. And I know they're already making a third. And there's been talk that Deadpool and Wolverine are going to make another one just because it did so well. I don't know if you saw this or not. It's become the largest grossing rated R movie ever.
Oh, I'd believe it. It's Ryan. Name something Ryan Reynolds is in that is not successful or involved with. So, but J-Lo's available. I guess she's filed. So. We'll see. All right.
She's a has-been.
Yeah. Final words, Mr.
That being said, J-Lo, call me.